Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to JDB's Morning Chat. Today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2026. And today, I know how much we're looking for. Today is Game 4. I'll talk about that a little bit later on this show as it develops. But today is the day. Get ready for that. So we can do whatever we want to do in this one here. All right, let's get started. Let's start with the NFL. Detroit Lions, last season, they faced the entire adversity. The Lions season went 9-8. Last place in the NFC North, did not make the playoffs. So, second time in a Dan Campbell era that the Lions had a winning record with a 9-8 without reaching the playoffs. Last time they did it was 2022. They went 9-8 and they were second place in the NFC North that year. Despite the fact they started the season 1-6 or 1-7, something like that. But the Lions are one of the biggest stories in the NFL in these past couple of years. The Lions have 4 consecutive winning records. 2 have reached the playoffs and 2 have not reached the playoffs. So in the Dan Campbell era, let's take a look at the Dan Campbell's record since he took over in 2021. Lions went 3-14 in the first season. Second season, 9-8. Both of those did not make the playoffs. And then, 2023-24 season, Lions went 12-5, make the playoffs, lost the NFC Championship round to the 49ers. And then the next year, Detroit Lions went 15-2. Best record in Lions history in a season. Were the number 1 seed in the NFC, end up losing the divisional round to the Washington Commanders. And last year, 9-8, did not make the playoffs. Last place in the NFC North due to a tiebreaker in favor of the Vikings because of a head-to-head sweep. However, despite the fact the Lions beat the Bears twice last year, but the Lions had some big-time injuries. Actually, a bunch of big-time injuries, especially on defense. So, Lions expectations. In 2026 season. The expectations is really high. So they're clearly strong. They're going to be strong Super Bowl contenders. They got a chance to win the NFC North. And they got one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. And especially the offense is going to continue to produce. Defense will improve week by week. Defense is not going to play perfection. But I do know this. Aiden Hutchinson is a Defensive Player of the Year potential. Jared Goff is an MVP potential. Jahmyr Gibbs is an Offensive Player of the Year potential. Same as Raha St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta. You still have a production of your offense. I think Detroit Lions is the big story for them to be a Super Bowl contender, to beat these good teams, to set the bar really high. Beating the Rams is going to be hard. But Jared Goff is actually 2-1 in his career against Matthew Stafford. Jared Goff has played 3 games with the Lions against the Rams. He's won 2 of those 3, including the NFC wildcard round in 2023-24 playoffs. He had his numbers a little bit. Correction. Jared Goff is 2-2 against Stafford. These two played each other last year. Rams were victorious. It was a great game. These two Lions and Rams, even though they won't play each other in the regular season this year, these two could play each other in the NFC Championship game. If it happens, this could be the first time in NFL history that two quarterbacks were traded in the same offseason and both going to the championship game. It has happened one time in the history. These two have played each other in the playoffs when two quarterbacks were traded in the same offseason. It was the NFC wild card round. And the winner of that went to Jared Goff's favor. It was a close game, 24-23 Lions. In the opening round of the playoffs, both quarterbacks were pretty good in that game. Neither quarterbacks turned the football over. It was a smooth football game. It wasn't nonchalant. I mean, I'll tell you what. Detroit Lions is a strong, like I said, the Lions are a strong Super Bowl contender from here on out. And Dan Campbell deserves to be a potential coach of the year. According to Vegas odds, they said 10.5 wins. Hell, I'll pick the over 10.5 wins. Expert projection says 12.1. I will pick like 12. I pick like 12 up to. I'll pick like 13 wins. But Rams are going to win 2 more games than the Lions. So the Rams and Lions will be like the top 2 tiers of the NFC. If I was going to add Philadelphia in the mix, or the rest of the field, like Chicago, or it could be Seattle, San Francisco, there could be several NFC teams who is a top tier contender in the NFC. The top 2 teams in the NFC right now is the Rams and the Lions. They're the 2 major teams I'm gonna headline the most. Maybe Philadelphia and Dallas are gonna dominate the headlines in the NFC as well. And San Francisco, 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks. There's several NFC teams could dominate the headlines the entire regular season and throughout this season as well. But the Lions and the Rams are going to dominate the headlines. Mainly the Rams, because the Rams, they're great on paper. Same as the Lions. They're really great on paper. You want to talk about yards? So which team will have a better defense, Rams or the Lions? I think the Rams will have better defense. Who do you think was a better defensive player? Myles Garrett or Aiden Hutchinson? Here's Myles Garrett indefinitely. He's a 2-time defensive player of the year. Aiden Hutchinson hasn't won anything yet. He'll get one as soon as possible. Could be as soon as this year. So that's not much else you can devise. So what areas they could improve going into the season? It's their secondary depth. Brian Branch is going to miss time early in the season. That's going to be a tough situation right now. Calvin Shepard as a Lions defensive coordinator, his second season. Calvin Shepard is the defensive coordinator right now. This is his second season. After Aaron Glenn left for the Jets job. So, rookie and young edge rushers like Derek Moore, something like that, then they would have learned everything else about it, and we have to see who would have thought this team could put them together. So you don't want to do nothing about it in this one. So when I look at the Lions' schedule in 2026, yeah, like I said, they have one of the easiest schedule in the league. So Lions will kick off this season at home against the Saints. That's a win. Week 2 at Buffalo, you squash for the loss in week 2. Week 3, Lions back home against the Jets. That's a winnable game. You're going to win, and that's a Lions winning week 3. So the week 4 at Carolina, Lions are just clearly a better team. I think the game will be close. It's going to be a shootout. But I think Lions will win week 4. They'll be 3-1. And then week 5, Lions play the Cardinals. I think Lions defense will bounce back. They're still going to win, so they get 4-1. In week 6 against the Packers, Lions were swept by the Packers last year. Lions were 2-4 against their own division last year. But I think Lions will beat the Packers in Detroit in week 6 to make it 5-1. In week 7, they'll beat Minnesota. No, actually, they had a bye week 6. Week 7 against the Packers. They beat the Packers in week 7. Week 8, the Lions beat the Vikings at home in Detroit. So they'll be 6-1. And then week 9 at Miami, they'll win that one to make it 7-1. And then week 10 in Germany, they'll face the Patriots. Lions will beat the Patriots to make it 8-1. Week 11 against the Buccaneers. That's a win at home. To make it 10-1. Against the Bears in week 12. That's a win. To make it 10-1, I should say. 9-1, 10-1. Then week 13 at Falcons. They're gonna drop that game. They're gonna drop that game. That's their second loss. So make it 10-2. Then week 14 against Tennessee. Lions will win that one 11-2. Week 15, they're at Minnesota. They'll drop that game. Vikings had something to play for, so Lions will drop that game to make it 11-3. In week 16, against the Giants at home, they'll win that one. They get 13-3. Right? 12-3. And then week 17 at Chicago, they'll probably drop that game. Right? No, they'll win that game. Actually, they're going to win. They're going to beat the Bears, make it 13-3. And then week 18, I should say, Lions at Packers in Green Bay. Then I think Packers will beat the Lions. The Lions will go 13-4. Lions will go 13-4 in the regular season, and they will win the NFC North Division. So the schedule looks promising. Like I said, week 1. Let me see the schedule one more time before I do something else. Week 1 against the Saints at home, win. Week 2 at Buffalo, loss. Week 3 against the Jets at home, win. Week 4 at Panthers, win. Week 5 at Cardinals, win. Week 7, home for the Packers, win. Week 8, home for the Vikings, win. Week 9 at Miami, win. Week 10 against the Patriots in Germany, win. Week 11, home for the Buccaneers, win. Week 12, home for the Bears, win. Week 13 at Falcons, loss. Week 14, week 13, Lions at the Falcons, loss. Week 14, Lions are home for the Titans, win. Week 15 at Minnesota Vikings, loss. Week 16, home for the Giants, win. Week 17 at the Bears, win. And week 18 at Packers, loss. So I think 13-4 on that season. So Lions are going to win the NFC North Division. Bears had clearly a tough schedule. Green Bay has to grind that out. So Like I said, Lions have one of the easiest schedules in the league. Because of that, there's a bunch of it. So, and this is what happened because we got everything else to prove because of it. That would have changed. That would have changed quite a lot. All right, so we're gonna come back on JDB's morning cap. We'll talk the Denver Broncos. How concerned are the Broncos about Bo Nix' situation? We're gonna talk about that as well. And also coming up on JDB's morning cap, we're gonna talk about Victor Wembanyama's playoff performance evaluation. And then we'll preview Game 4 at the Garden in the NBA Finals between the Spurs and the Knicks. We will step away right after this. Welcome back to JDB's Morning Cap. Let's take a look at the Broncos' outlook in 2026. Last season, they went 14-3, the number one seed in the AFC. Lost the AFC Championship round to the New England Patriots. So let's take a look at the Broncos since 2000. Let's take a look at the Broncos seasons since 2019. So since 2019, the Broncos, the 2019 season, the Broncos went 7-9 in 2019. In 2020, in 2020, the Broncos went 5-11. And in 2021, the Broncos went 7-10. In 2022, the Broncos went 5-12. In 2023, the Broncos finished 8-9. In 2024, they went 10-7, made the playoffs, lost the wild card round to the Buffalo Bills, and then last year, 25-26, they went 14-3, lost the NFC Championship round. Broncos record since 2019, just 54-57. So I think they can do better. So here's my question. Should the Broncos be concerned about Bo Nix' health situation? Yeah, I'm concerned. All right, going into his third season, when he gets healthy, he's a good player. But I think his stats will be tested for Bo Nix in 2026 for a majority of reasons. Because I think he's done some good things in the first two seasons, but his third year will be tested for him because of that. Although the Broncos have made the playoffs the last 2 years, but there's no hangover for this for Denver. I think Denver is a talented football team. I think they're just talented enough. They weren't talented enough to win division if it wasn't for these games. The Broncos have played a lot of close games last year, and they won most of it because of that. Because the reason why they win a bunch of close games, they don't always play perfection. They don't always play pretty. They play a lot of confidence in the fourth quarter. And the Broncos have played a bunch of confidence in the fourth quarter, even they haven't played their best. That's understandable. Bo Nix is a big story. He's been clutch in the fourth quarter last year. He's been a clutch performer, time and time again. When they come through in big spots like this, the defense has been a big story. This is a very good Broncos defense. I cannot take away from that. I can't take away from that at all. Talk about the Broncos defense, and it's all about success. It's all about hard work. But you've already granted your differences. That's equality of the first step. You're taking an opportunity in your own hands. But I cannot applaud anything else about what's going to happen here for Denver, if that's the case. But I do like the fact that the Denver Broncos are just gonna play some confidence and play enough in this one. So let's see how that works in this one here. So for Denver's schedule, it's not gonna be really easy, and I tell you that. That's how concerned I am about Bo Nix. Should the Broncos either make the playoffs or they don't deserve to make the playoffs? This is interesting. This is going to get interesting because of that. Those situations are vital because of that. It's a really different. It's a different story right now. It's a different world right now. All right, so we're going to take a look at the Broncos' 2026 schedule. Let's see, we can do all this. All right, so Broncos will kick off the season on Monday night against the Broncos will head to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. And I'm going to pick week one at Kansas City. I think Broncos win week one. And then week two against Jacksonville at home. Last time they played Jacksonville in Denver, Jacksonville had Broncos numbers and beat the Broncos last year in week 16. I think Broncos will get to Jacksonville this time in Denver. So Denver goes 2-0. Then week three, they're staying home against the Rams on Sunday night. This time, the Rams are going to beat the Broncos on Sunday night to make it 2-1. In week four, at San Francisco, they're probably going to lose that as well. They're going to go 2-2. They'll lose to the 49ers on the road. In week five, at Chargers, that's also a loss to make it 2-3. And then week six against the Seahawks at home, that's a loss, 2-4. In week seven at Arizona, they'll win that one. They'll make it 3-4. In week 8 against Kansas City Chiefs at home, that's another win. So it'll be 4-4. So, and then week 9 at Panthers, that's a W, make it 5-4. And then week 11 against the Raiders at home, the Broncos will beat the Raiders to make it 6-4. And then week 13 at Pittsburgh, they'll probably lose that one to make it 6-5. And then they'll fade it off. It's at home in week 13. They'll win that one, make it 7-5. And then week 14 at the Jets, that's a win, make it 8-5. And then week 15 at Raiders, they'll probably lose that one to make it 8-6. And then week 16 against the Bills, rematch from the AFC divisional round. The game is in Denver again. I think Buffalo will get to Denver this time to make it 8-7. Then week 17 at New England, that's a loss. And then week 18 against the Chargers at home, that's a win. The Broncos will go 9-8, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. They will not make the playoffs. And here's why. Those final stretches is going to be tough. There could be they can face potential injuries. The Broncos going to have one of the toughest stretches in the NFL, starting against the Steelers, and then they have a tough game against the Bills, Patriots. So they'll probably go 9-8. They're gonna go 9-8, and they're not making the playoffs, unfortunately. I mean, there could be too many injuries. Knicks numbers may be declined because it feels like there's some opportunities you have to make it out a little bit. It's really, really tough. It's really tough to get through that. It sure it is. So it's gonna be that. It's gonna be either this or that to make it all happen here. All right, let's move on. We're gonna do a walk. We're gonna do we're gonna do a beat around here. Let's take a look at what happened in yesterday's game. Let's take a look at the final scores for Major League Baseball from June 9th. Mariners beat the Orioles 6-5 in 10 innings. Mariners improved to 36-32 on the season. Meanwhile, Yankees beat the Guardians 3-2 in Cleveland. Yankees have taken the first two games of this series. Meanwhile, the Marlins beat the Diamondbacks 10-6 in Miami. Dodgers beat the Pirates 12-3. Dodgers scored 10 runs in the 7th inning. Paul Skeens was on the mound that game. He took the no decision. Tigers beat the Twins 10-4. The Tigers have now won 8 of their. Tigers have won 6 of their last 7 games. So they start to roll a bit. Rays beat the Red Sox 4-3 in Tampa Bay. Meanwhile, Blue Jays walk off the Phillies last night in Toronto 3-2. They were trailing 2-1 going to the bottom of the 9th inning. Cardinals shuts out the Mets in Queens 7-0. White Sox walk off the Braves in 10 innings 6-5. Montgomery had 2 home runs in his Major League debut, including a walk-off 2-run home run. Brandon Montgomery hit 2 home runs in his big league debut, including a walk-off 2-run shot in the 10th inning against the best team in the National League, Atlanta Braves, and best team in all of baseball. Royals beat the Rangers 5-3 in Kansas City. Rockies beat the struggling Cubs 7-3 in Denver. Angels blast off the Astros 10-1 in Anaheim. Reds win an 11th inning thriller in San Diego 5-3. Nationals beats the Giants in San Francisco 6-3, and they take the first 2 games of this series. The Nationals are the big story right now. The Athletics from West Sacramento defeated Milwaukee Brewers 7-5 in Las Vegas. After the Brewers won a wild 12-inning fashion on Monday night, 15-14. The last night wasn't much of a thriller, but it was close as well. But the A's beat the Brewers 7-5 to split the 3-game series. They'll wrap this up here tonight before the A's stay in Las Vegas against the Rockies for 3 more. All right, so when we come back on JDB's Morning Cap, we'll talk Victor's playoff evaluation. And I'll talk Game 4 of the NBA Finals. I'll preview this game here. It is all coming up next, and we'll be right back. Right now, Victor Wembanyama is put up monster numbers in his playoffs so far, including 3 games in the NBA Finals. So right now, let's take a look at the points game by game in the NBA Finals through the first 3 games. Victor Wembanyama had 26 points in Game 1. In the NBA Finals. Then Game 2, Victor followed by 29 points in Game 2. And then on Monday night, Victor Wembanyama scored 32. So Victor Wembanyama is averaged 29 points a game in this series. So that is a Finals MVP type numbers, even though they're down 2-1. Had the Spurs won this series, the NBA Finals MVP would have awarded to Victor Wembanyama, but they're not there yet. They need to win 3 more games, including tonight. So Victor Wembanyama is having a nice NBA Finals. We all know that, but he's having a nice postseason overall. So when I take a look at his numbers for Victor Wembanyama in the playoffs, we'll get to that in a minute. Victor is a talented young man. We all know about his performance on and off the court. He's been really consistent with his stats and all that stuff, but nothing else is going to change. Nothing is going to change, and we already know that. Now let's take a look at his numbers the entire postseason. Wemby playoff success. Victor Wembanyama postseason stats. Victor is averaged 24.1 points per game. Rebounds per game, 10.6. Assists per game, 2.8. Steals per game, 1.1. Blocks per game, 3.5. Field goal percentage, 50.2%. 3-point percentage, 36%. Free throw percentage, 86.2% at the line. So those are the success that he has had for Wemby in this playoffs. But with that being said, those are big time numbers, and we've seen everything to go with it. But it's not going to turn out easy, but hopefully it turns out really, really well. But it will change. It will change everything. We all know that. I would have took an exception on this Maybe I would. I wouldn't ever do that to you guys. But it's a really different story right now. Because of that, and then we can keep this out in his own hands. All right, let's keep it right here. Let's talk Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Let's preview that game. The Spurs and the Knicks live from MSG in New York City in the Big Apple. Knicks still ahead in this series, 2-1. All road teams have won the game in this series. Have won all 3 games in this series. So let's see who gets which team will get. Will the Knicks become the first one to win a home game in this series? Hopefully that will be the case here tonight. All right, so here's my question. What Jalen Brunson has to do better tonight comparing through the first 3 games? Well, the good news is he's averaged 27 points per game, but he's only shot roughly 37% from the field. So that's the area he needs to improve for Jalen Brunson, especially the rest of the series. So right now, the NBA Finals MVP is still going to be Karl-Anthony Towns because he's been effective in the playoffs in this series. And honorable mention, I say OG Anunoby. So NBA Finals MVP, when the Knicks controls the series, he's up for grabs. Jalen Brunson is having an up and down series. He scored a lot of points, but he hasn't shot the ball particularly great at times in this finals. But I think he'll turn it around. He'll get going. I know he had a better field goal percentage his last game, so let's see if he can do even better tonight to do that. See how much they can really battle for it. So yeah, and if that's the case, there's a little bit of different story. But it's not a problem right now. And you made your own difference because it felt like you did everything to tell us to work with. Josh Hart was better in Game 3, but everybody has to be better tonight in Game 4 if they want to take a commanding 3-1 series advantage. They just need to get off to a good start if they want to take Game 4 and take 3-1 commanding series lead. If they can do that, then they got a shot. They can make it happen. You know, for the Spurs, they come off a 4-point win in Game 3 to put the series on the board. How the Spurs can split the best of 7 series here in Game 4. Well, Victor Wembanyama is having an up and down series. He had some good games offensively. He had some tough ones. But I think I think Victor hasn't played bad in this finals, despite the fact they're down 2-1. They could have been up 2-1, or they could have been up 3-0, or they could have been up 3-0. As a matter of fact, they could have clinched tonight. Instead, you're down 2-1. You lost your first 2 home games. You won the road game in Game 3. Now, it's time to snatch it back from the home court advantage. It's critical. if you try to claim your home court advantage, this is critical for the Spurs tonight to get your home court advantage back. If you don't do that, then it's going to be really tough to come back from 3-1 down. Luckily, you're not down 3-0. If it had happened, then I'm not sure it's possible. But being down 2-1 is better than being down 3-0. You still got a chance to win tonight. So if you win tonight and not facing a 3-1 series deficit, then you put yourself in a really better position to do it. So let's see if the Spurs can do it the same thing like they did on Monday night, if that's going to be the case. Who do I like to win Game 4, Spurs or the Knicks? I like Knicks bouncing back. I think they're going to take a 3-1 commanding series lead. I hope Jalen Brunson will have a best performance in this series. So hopefully he'll get that here tonight. All right, let's close things out here. Tomorrow I will recap the NBA Finals. And I'm going to update the NBA draft because the NBA draft is about 2 weeks away, something like that. Wizards are on the clock for the #1 pick of the NBA draft. So we'll talk AJ Dybantsta as well. Is he the favorite to be the #1 pick in the NBA draft, or is it the rest of the field? So we'll have to talk all of this. And I'm still going to talk more NFL. I want to talk I want to talk like the teams that I want to see. I want to talk San Francisco 49ers tomorrow, so I can do all that, and then we'll see how that goes here. This is JDB's Morning Cap. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Enjoy your day, guys.